You may recall in places all over the United States, many years ago, there used to be these big Uncle Sam posters that says, Uncle Sam wants you. That was a slogan back during World War I. Our first speaker tonight is liberally borrowing that slogan, to encourage you to serve as a club officer in Midway Toastmasters. So snap to attention and prepare to salute Steve as he addresses the troops with his speech. Uncle Steve wants you.
Would you like to speak and lead? I would not like to, Lanham Steve. Would you, could you in the room? Would you, could you while on Zoom? Would you like to speak and lead? Tell me, this I plead. I don't want to, Lanham Steve. Can't you, won't you let me be? Not on Zoom, not in the room, not even if you promise the moon. I don't have time to speak and lead. I don't have time. Can't you see? I know you think I have the skill. Here's my answer. No, no deal. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, and guest. If you've been in the club for a while, you've seen me do a periodic Dr. Seussian riff about some members' reluctance to embrace the fullness of the Toastmasters program and the opportunities we have to develop our speaking and leadership skills. But at the end of that riff, just like Sam I Am in Green Eggs and Ham, Lanham Steve is able to convince those reluctant members that speaking and leadership are where it's at in Toastmasters. Today, I would like to encourage you, all of you, to consider a leadership position at Midway Toastmasters for the coming year. Now, immediate past president Cynthia Lanham, my better half, for those of you might not know, she was putting together a slate of officers for July, and we have elections coming up, the first meeting in May. So I'm asking you, no, I'm imploring you to consider serving as an officer. You might say, well, I don't feel like I'm really ready. I don't know what to do. Well, let me tell you, we have a battalion of seasoned veterans here in our Toastmasters Club who are ready to assist and mentor you. Then you might think, well, I don't know if I really have the time to devote to this to be effective. Don't think you have to do the job all by yourself. Develop a team. Get people to help. Find assistants. And if you still aren't convinced, be an assistant, because that lightens the load for everyone. And if you're an assistant, then when the time comes next year or the following year for that role to be filled, you will be primed for that position. If I decide to serve the club, what officer role would I love? If I decide to up and lead, what does that look like? Lanham Steve. I thought you'd never ask. 7 officer roles in the club. Let's go through them fairly quickly. And you can find this information at toastmasters.org. Club president is the face of the club. The club president sets the vision for the club and works with all the other officers and all the other members to fulfill that vision. The president chairs our executive committee meetings and our specially called business meetings of all club members. This is where we conduct club business, and doing that and leading that is a great skill, like all the officer roles, but this is a great skill that transfers to the outside world. The club president also is instrumental in developing the club success plan and making sure that we meet all the elements on that plan so that we can, once again, can be presidents distinguished, which we have been for the last 4 or 5 years running. Next officer, Vice President Education, the VPE. 5 things the Vice President of Education is responsible for. First is the meeting agenda, making sure it's on the website and making sure we have a Toastmaster of the day ready for that particular meeting. Second, the Toastmaster of the day is responsible for helping members understand and navigate the online Pathways educational program. And once members progress and they complete a level, one of the 5 levels in the Pathways program, the VPE is responsible for approving those level completions. The Vice President of Education also is at the head of the club mentoring program and is responsible for making sure that the club contests are run each year. Next, Vice President membership. The Vice President membership role is to convert visitors into members and to keep current members engaged in the club meetings and other club activities. Now, it's very critical for our guests to feel welcome, and that's where our BPM comes in, and very important to have follow-up with people that visit our meetings. The Vice President membership is the point person for questions from guests about the club, about Toastmasters, about how we do things, about all these acronyms that we throw around. The Vice President membership is also responsible for having open houses and participating in Toastmasters International membership campaigns like the one coming up in May called Beat the Clock. You may be hearing more about that. But it's not all about visitors and getting new members. The Vice President membership is also key in retaining the members that we have and having activities that help us do that. And Sunday DeGoyer, our current DPM, is doing just that with her bingo activity that she has planned in May. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing more about that in the coming weeks. Next, the Vice President of Public Relations. This role, this person gets the word out about the club and hopefully attracts members to our meetings. And the vehicles for disseminating this information vary. We use social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We use the club website, our club newsletter. We even utilize the old-fashioned newspaper. Woodford Sun, the newspaper in our little community of Woodford County. They published an article just last week, thanks to Sherry Wood, our VP of PR. They published an article about the panel discussion at the bonus meeting that Valerie Salvin led about space and GPS and other technical issues that I can't even remember. So thanks, Sherry, for doing that. Now let me stop right here and say that please, if you're considering being an officer, realize that you do not have to do it all yourself. Part of what you can do is find people and develop a team. That's one of the greatest leadership lessons you can learn at Midway Toastmasters as an officer. Identifying the talent, identifying that willing person, finding them, and then grooming them and motivating them to tackle and complete that task at hand. Now let's take, for example, Sherry Wood, our VP PR. When I talked about the responsibilities of PR, you got social media, you got the website, you got the club newsletter. That's a big job for one person. And Sherry doesn't have to do it all. She has what I like to call a formal long-term team to help her do that. Arlene McMahon, she handles the website. I handle the newsletter. And Sherry, being the wonderful graphic artist that she is, handles all things related to social media and puts these wonderful, wonderful posts out there. So this formal team is in place to meet the needs of our public relations vice president. But there are also opportunities for us as club officers to have informal and short-term teams. Now, Sunday, when she put this bingo activity together, it was advised, and she took this advice, and she put together a team and figure out exactly how we're going to go about this. So that was a short-term team that didn't have to meet for 6 months for the whole year. It just went in and did it, in 3, 4, 6 weeks, whatever it is, in and done. They were boom, they were done. And Charlie, he's in charge of club contest as vice president of education. But Charlie wanted to be in the contest, and I don't blame him. So he found Griffin to actually be the contest chair. And then Griffin put this short-term team focused on this specific task of club contest. He put that team together, and they were able to accomplish that task. So this is, again, great skills that transfer outside of Toastmasters when you're an officer. But make no mistake. I mean, the thing is, when you consider everything, you don't have to do all the work yourself. But make no mistake, there is some work involved in being a club officer. I won't lie to you about that. But here's the thing, and Rick alluded to this earlier. Where else than as Toastmasters officer do you have the chance to develop your leadership skills in a low risk environment like Toastmasters? Where else? Now, someone once said, Rick said you can't fail in Toastmasters. Well, some people might disagree with that, but I heard someone say once, and I liked it, Toastmasters is a place where you can fail fabulously and nothing happens, right? You don't lose your job, you don't get demoted, you don't get your salary cut. No, you learn from it. It might hurt, it might be embarrassing, but it's not going to affect your life long term. But now let's go back to those other officer roles. Secretary. We looked at the top 4, let's look at the other 3. Secretary. Secretary does what you would normally think a secretary would do. They take minutes of the executive committee meetings and the specially called business meetings of all the officers. And those special meetings usually are to induct new members into our club, vote new members in, and to elect new officers. And the secretary also posts that officer list in Club Central at toastmasters.org twice a year in our club. The treasurer. The treasurer normally does pay the bills, deposit funds, and most of that centers around collecting member dues and then paying the portion that needs to go to Toastmasters International. The treasurer also reimburses members for expenses they may incur for club business. The sergeant at arms is the last Toastmaster officer role I want to talk about. Not going as last, but not least, but they're responsible for the physical and virtual setup of our meeting rooms. Sergeant at arms also responsible for being the social chair for our club. So if you like parties, if you're a party planner, you might want to consider the sergeant at arms role. Now, in the introduction, Rick mentioned Uncle Sam. Now, I want you to forget Uncle Sam for right now. I want you to forget Sam I am right now. And just for a second, forget Lanham Steve, but just for a second, okay? Because Uncle Steve wants you to be a club officer. Now, just like Uncle Sam back in the 1900s in World War I am asking you to serve on the front lines of Midway Toastmasters as a club officer. That is where you'll gain the skills and you'll gain the experience that you won't realize it while it's happening, but after it, you will realize you have learned so much and it's been so worth it. I know that's happened to me. You'll learn how to lead, to motivate, to plan, to schedule, to execute, to communicate, and develop other leadership skills that you admire in others. I mean, I'm the furthest thing from a natural leader, but through Toastmasters, I have been able to flex, well, my Toastmasters muscles, my leadership muscles. The same thing can happen to you. Now, in the last 5 years, we've had 70 officer positions, and 2/3 of those have been filled by the same 6 people. So we need other people to come in and serve as club officers. Before I end, Lanham Steve has this to say about this incredible opportunity to enhance your leadership skills in a low-risk environment.
Red.
Tell me, Lanham Steve, do you think I can really lead? Oh, yes, you can lead. Take the chance, that's all you need. Club president might be your thing. Step right up, see what you bring. BPE might be your choice. Help our members find their voice. BPM might be your play. Learn new members, have old ones stay. BPPR, take a look. Do Twitter, the website, and Facebook. Club secretary might float your boat. Taking minutes and capturing notes. Thinking club treasurer might be your deal. Collect member dues and pay the bills. Sergeant at arms might catch your eye. Arrange the room and manage supplies. Please listen to me, lend an ear. You can be an officer this coming year, Mr. Toastmaster.